What's up, interwebs? This is Hazelton Fields III.
I'm Hazelton Fields II.
I'm Lex.
And we are here with another episode of
Various Fields.
That's my cue.
Right. Today we're doing another, movie review. And at this moment, we are all very much excited to talk about the Thunderbolts film. Right?
Just before you begin, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this particular episode, there very well may be some spoiler alerts, even though this may be months later. We want to let you know, please don't turn away totally, because we're not going to necessarily talk about the movie directly, but just be aware that if you haven't seen it, we're going to give you a couple of seconds to move away.
Stop. It might be copyright.
I was going to say, by the time that this does come out, it's probably going to be a little after August, or maybe just at the end of August, so as gracious as these two are, if you haven't seen it by now, if you haven't subscribed to Disney Plus and watched it there,
it's your
that's
fault.
on you.
Wow! And that's a way to build an audience, by
Absolutely.
shaming the audience.
We give you your grace period, and then asterisk.
Oh, you didn't
Make them like us again. Continue.
Right. If you do like our movie reviews and other things that we talk about in the various fields, please don't forget to like, share,
and subscribe.
And make sure you hit all of those buttons. That's right, getting it out the way.
Wow, yeah, I see that.
All right. So, with that being said, Thunderbolts. I can't really say that because it also represents a political figure in the MCU world.
Oh my god.
That's right, Thunderbolt Ross. So they remember Thunderbolt Ross?
Yeah, I remember Thunderbolt Ross.
They can't necessarily call themselves the Thunderbolts.
But that was explained in the movie.
Exactly, which our viewers who have not seen the movie yet would not understand.
Wow. Right out the gate.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
So much there.
Huh?
Okay, continue.
Continue.
So,
Let's give them something. Go ahead. Go.
okay. So, anyway, Thunderbolts was a very interesting movie. It hit on a lot of different themes. And particularly, I think I enjoyed it because it is kind of answering this fatigue that we are all kind of experiencing with the MCU and I guess the superhero genre in general, right? There have been a lot of people talking about like the big build-ups to, I guess, climactic ends that seem to be overly done, right? Ironically, this show came at an ending that felt kind of like it kind of ended on a whisper rather than a big bang, even though the revelation of that conclusion was bigger than how it felt that you left. It didn't leave you with the exasperation or the shock and awe that came from Endgame or the Infinity Wars, right? But it kind of left you with a question of what's next, and I very much enjoyed that.
Now, can you do me a favor? Can both of you because there's some people from my generation that might not know who the Thunderbolts are, so give them some context. Can you give me some thumbnail description, so to speak, of where we are, who the Thunderbolts, what preceded it, just a quick overview to let us know how we got to
This is thumbnail, so I guess Lex has it.
Go ahead.
Oh, we don't do puns anymore, I see.
I'm sorry, son. That was very good.
Validation. Alright.
Go on.
So I'm not sure if it's like a generation thing in this specific case, only because the Thunderbolts have been newly introduced in this form in the MCU. Because the comic book version could be a newer thing. I think they were maybe introduced around 2012.
Okay.
But the MCU version of the Thunderbolts are all people who have been introduced in the MCU. So I don't think it's quote unquote a generation thing as much as like if you just haven't watched the Avengers or any of the Marvel films probably since Infinity War, then you'll be out of the loop. So I'm giving it more for like anyone that's more of a cinematic difference.
So who are the Thunderbolts in this thing? I'm still looking for a breakdown.
So we're going to have, I'm going to be actually bad at this because I'm bad at names at this point. So I have the Red Guardian, who is a Russian Captain America. Easiest way to say it, right? As a Russian. Russian Captain America. We're going to have Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, reformed Winter Soldier, which is, real quick, Bucky Barnes was a friend of Captain America when he was in World War II, and then he went, "Wah!" and died to his death, but didn't really die to his death. This is also spoilers for Captain America's First Avenger, but come on, guys, really, give me a break here. If you haven't seen it, And then he dies to his death. And then there's another movie that's called Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and his best friend coming back from the dead, but it's not actually him because he's trying to kill everybody, including Captain America, who's Steve Rogers, who's played by Chris Evans. Again, if you haven't seen this, what's going on? But then next you know, Chris Evans, who is Steve Rogers, is now trying to stop Bucky Barnes, who is his friend, who's coming back from the dead as Winter Soldier, to be as human again, because he's like, hey, you're not actually me, and I like you, you're my friend. And that continues into Civil War, and eventually Civil War, and then Infinity War. Anyways, Bucky Barnes is fine, and Winter Soldier's okay now, and he also has a new arm, and he's used to be in Wakanda.
Wow.
Oh, he's also a friend of Sam Wilson, who's the Falcon.
The Falcon, who is now the new Captain America. Anyway, all right. So
See, it's confusing.
All right, let me try it this way. In the movie The Endgame, it featured the Avengers.
Correct.
The Avengers now, for varying reasons, are no longer accessible to the people of New York. They have basically skipped town. They're no longer around. So now these new heroes or other heroes that exist who are by any stretch of the imagination, they're like the B game. They're not quite up to the par of what we expect of the Avengers. So now it's time for these people who lack various degrees of confidence to come to the aid of New York City. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay,
So
I like that. Also, bear in mind that some of these people were never really in the
Hero business
to begin with, right? A lot of them, in fact, like the Ghost was
assassin.
I was going to say titular villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? And after basically getting better during that movie, they kind of like led to this, things happened. Was recruited by what was her name, Vanessa, or Valentina, D. Valentine, I believe, right? And basically lived a life as a continuing mercenary under her. And then you also have U.S. Agent, right?
Who was also Captain America for a brief time.
A very brief time. Wow. And if you haven't seen that was during Falcon and Winter Soldier. But again, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. And you would he basically was also recruited by D. Valentine, trying to find a way to basically get his good name back. But a lot of his exploits have just led him down this darker path.
He's a bad cop.
He's who else do we have? We also have, I guess, the new Black Widow, but not really. It's like the
White Widow's effectively.
All right, which is, I guess, in many cases, the main character of the Thunderbolts in this game. Well, she has the most screen time, right? And has kind of like come back in effect, living in Scarlett Johansson's shadow, trying to become the new, not so much become the new Black Widow, but like kind of like living a life past her. After the Black Widow movie, right, there was a lot of, recovery about one's identity and trying to find out what to do with themselves outside of the Red Room, which they kind of all exploded, right? Oh, and speaking of exploded, Taskmaster was also there.
Yes. Played by the guy that we like.
The girl.
Taskmaster? Yeah, there's Taskmaster in this. Are you
right, I'm talking about the gentleman that played, isn't that Gino Carlo?
Gene Esposito. That's. Are you talking about?
Am I getting my movies?
I think you mean movies because that's from.
The Captain America.
That's
I apologize, America. Well, all right. So we I think because of the fact we know this.
Yes.
We're kind of, I think I don't want to confuse anybody. So let's talk about. So we got these new heroes that are now in this city, and they are being called to do something to save. The city. They
were told to kill each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so a good way to explain this is they're technically not heroes. They're all different versions of mercenaries and villains and things like that. Now, I believe White Widow, who I'm forgetting the character's actual name in this, it takes something up as D. Valentine as more like a hero for hire situation, but they essentially work for the government, which changes the aspect a little bit.
Okay.
Right? And the reason why I'm saying that the way all these people meet together is they're all put into a room where D. Valentine, who is essentially has a trial for being an enemy of the state / the country,
Julie Louis-Dreyfus, is that correct? Is that
Yeah, it could be that.
The lady that played
played
in Jerry Seinfeld.
Right,
Seinfeld.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
So, yes, she's trying to hide all of her secrets and burn everything to the ground that proves that she's doing illegal stuff. And that includes them, because the way she's been operating
Yes.
is illegal. So she tries to put them all in a room and tell them all with different stories about who the other person is, because none of them ever met before. That they're all different versions of villains, and they're all supposed to effectively kill each other. If that doesn't happen, she's going to blow up the whole building with them inside it. But that doesn't pan out. Why? That's just someone's to take.
So here is now this.
She didn't preheat the oven.
All right, so we've got a government figure trying to burn their bad behavior to the ground, so there's no remnant of it. But now that brings us to them escaping their demise, intended demise. And now what happens? What's going on? Because I want to get to the point where we find the metaphors and where we find the things.
True.
You don't have to go through the whole movie, Dad.
No. I guess we'll be quick about it then. True to the play on words, out of the fire into the frying pan. They literally come out of this bad situation and try to live on like how do you go back to normal, realizing that your employer is basically trying to one off you, right? A lot of them, a lot of them are arguing with themselves like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to normal life. Like if they want me gone, then I'm gone, and I'll never speak to this again. I'm gonna go and be in hiding for the rest of my life. But then we have Bucky Barnes that more or less comes over and captures them. Again, thinking that they're all in fact villains, and say, I'm gonna bring you up, and basically as proof that Dee Fontaine was a bad person, right? And they're all saying, well, yeah, that's true, but we also need to do this first. And that thing was more or less making sure that a super being doesn't go out in public and be, I guess, a problem for the rest of the world. And that person was Sentry.
Whose name was Bob.
Bob.
Okay, so now we have this character named Bob. This is, I think, where the pivotal point for those who are catching up and saying, my gosh, they're all over the place. Bob has greater power than and all of the new these new
heroes.
Heroes. Yeah, they're being called to action based upon Bob. He has a very serious issue, even though he has a very he's got superpowers, almost like Superman-esque. Super strong.
Yeah.
Maybe even one could argue maybe even stronger than a Hulk, possibly.
That's supposed to be the thing.
Yeah. So we don't know. But the point is, he is. But as Bob, before he turns into Sentry, what is the issue that makes Sentry very interesting?
Well, so for the sake of how Disney and Marvel works, because they have to do representation correctly, and also this is a thing, Bob has what I call nebulous terminal mental illness, in which they kind of put him in a situation where he has a variant amount of mental illnesses that they are not very specific about, to make sure that anyone who has a mental illness in real life or whatever isn't quite offended by the representation. But he's got a lot going on. But one of the things they try to feature is a dual or split personality disorder, something similar to that, and a very specific version of depression.
And also PTSD.
Various.
Yes, a bunch of
Like I said, it's a little mixing pot.
So Bob's got a lot of stuff going on.
That's right.
Yet he's the strongest human being on the planet.
And this is why you gotta go to therapy, kids.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. This is where I think all the metaphors are now coming into play.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone explain to me, because this is the first of two various fields that you'll be watching weekly, and this is our tribute to movies with a message and a metaphor. So so this is the Thunderbolts episode.
Movie with magic. So if we're going to get straight in, and again, this is our quick review, just more or less talking about how we like the movie and the message that we got from it. If you get the actual details, please watch the movie, and then come to our video so you'll understand everything. Sentry is supposed to be, in both the comics and in this representation, one of the most powerful superheroes in the Marvel Universe, and of course in their world, the world. Which gives him delusions of grandeur, which would make sense if you can do a lot of stuff. You could levitate, fly, and all that other stuff. I'm pretty sure you feel pretty good about yourself. However, Bob, the arbiter of these powers, the person who holds these powers, has his own senses of himself, and he doesn't feel quite good about who he is as a person. So he'll sometimes go to delusions of grandeur, to the idea of disassociation, and there's a word for sometimes people refer to this when they get a new job and they don't feel like they're holding up to the job position.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that happens. And when he feels that imposter syndrome, without spoiling, because I'll throw the second part to you, Sidlin, he has what would be called a pretty deep fall off from the idea of feeling the most powerful person in the world to feeling a devastating amount of negative feelings about himself, which leads him to the second version of this character, Sentry, in the alt persona, which is
the Void. So I guess to sum it up, as we said, it is a culmination of a great deal of other mental illnesses that are not exclusively described, but it's more of, I guess, adding another one to the pot. It's that level of inferiority complex that's also that's been heightened by the super soldier syndrome, right? That emptiness that they kind of allude to and very much talk about. Like, what do you do when you have, like, when you're kind of like going through the motions of life? You know, the Void kind of very much speaks through that and kind of reminds Bob that he is nothing without this, that, or the third thing. And he's been going through that all of his life, right? So when he's jacked up with all the stuff that made Steve Rogers great and the Red Skull bad, right? This void that he felt within himself also got juiced up as well and became quite literally an embodiment of everyone else's depression, you know, or like traumatic experiences, and had to remind them, and they kind of like emphasized all the bad parts of people's lives. In fact, I think it might have been shown in trailers, if there was a moment in time when he blankets the city in darkness, right? And a great deal of that darkness was just a reminder of everyone which the darkness touches, all of their darkest moments in life, you know?
Go continue.
Yeah, the Void itself was, I guess the thing that we enjoyed in terms of the message of the movie was there was a very much an internal conflict that needed to be resolved before the external conflict was resolved, right? And it's not really completed. It wasn't really answered, right? But I guess with the association that all the Thunderbolts, who also kind of felt this void inside of them, this emptiness, this wanting to be more than what they came from, wanting to do more than what they kind of like left, you know, all had to come to terms with those darkest points in their life and realize that they're kind of all in it together, you know, and, you know, kind of comforted Bob in that way, so they can silence the void in each other.
And if you're looking to fill the void in your life, please watch and like and subscribe to Various Fields, where we are going to make sure to put the whole community together, where you can all like, subscribe, and push all the buttons.
Wow. Well, that was good. Okay. We gave you a double dose of that. But anyway, that's okay. But here's the thing. This is where I think the rubber hits the road for me.
Okay.
All right. So I think in this movie it was very clever, because I think this was Marvel's attempt to bring you into the film.
The viewer.
All right, because what happens is Bob, as well as all of the other people who would become, which I thought was beautiful too, the Thunderbolts, which was kind of a disparaging term from their situation in the beginning. They were, you know, it was thought one of the mythos of their name came from a Little League baseball team, you know, so they were thought of in the sense of like, you know, that with that naming convention, one might think of ourselves as lesser. And how about ourselves? Sometimes I think, you know, you said mental illness, you said there was the psyche, you know, just in general. A lot of times, how do we feel about ourselves? Bob, although all-powerful as Sentry, was also all-powerful as the negative side of Sentry, as the Void. And also as himself, timid, you know, kind of a kindness, just a general, but no confidence in himself. And I say unto you all, aren't we all this? Do we all have superpowers? There's a greatness in all of us, you know, that sometimes because of whatever, we diminish ourselves.
We all are Bob.
We all are Bob. We all have power. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm not playing. I mean, I am playing, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what happens. Because if you think about, I think the Red Guardian, and who's his daughter?
White Widow. I can't remember her character.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, the White
Widow.
Well,
Yelena, that's what it is. Yeah.
Here we go. We had a dynamic where here's this most powerful Captain American-esque Russian-style character, had all this power. Similarly, this White Widow who could fight all kinds of things, but yet they had a dynamic between father and daughter that there was a void. There was a problem. There was a problem there. And so no matter, you may have everything together in your life, but you then sometimes feel that there's that missing component that needs to be resolved. This is the kind of stuff I was seeing.
You know, it's fun. It's something that I feel like myself and Trey have done for a very long time, and I think we probably did it on this on various fields as well. But something I'll say when I meet a lot of people, if I can, just as an introduction. One, because I'm a nerd, but two, because I do think there's actually more of a power to it. Is Trey knows this. I'll ask someone, if you had a superpower that best described your personality, what would it be? Now that's sometimes just a nerdy thing to be like, hey, you know, translate yourself to a superpower and be like, oh, what's that cool special thing or something to do it, and then you can kind of talk about it and like maybe mix and match powers or talk about it in a fantasy way. But also just a small way to be like, hey, can you see a part of yourself that feels like a superpower? And then also advocate for that part of yourself. And sometimes I've gotten that. I've gotten some people who like, maybe I'll ask about it, maybe they're shy about it, so they'll say invisibility, and that's because they believe a part of their personality is this. But then I can talk about that part of their personality where it's slightly detached from them, because we're not really talking about who you are, we're talking about as a person. And I'm like, hey, but what can you accomplish with this idea of invisibility? Would you go around and sneak around with things? Do you use it to protect yourself? And then you can talk about who you are and your aspects in this kind of safer zone. But I think this whole movie alludes to that. It's like your personality, who you are, as a superpower can be seen and used and thought of as a superpower. How do you utilize yourself? How is a part of yourself that is deep to you one of the most special things? And have you trained it? Is it a power to you? Is it a burden to you? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And I love how you brought that up because the fact that like this, ironically, the movie didn't really answer any of that. You know, it said even with power, there is still there's a darkness, there's a void inside everyone that still wants to be answered or fed to because of this lack thereof within the individual, right? Even at the end, again, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry for you.
Wow.
If you haven't seen the movie, there was basically there was we're talking to the void. There was a spin on how the heroes saved the day at the end, right? And it left all of them kind of wanting more because it wasn't really exactly how they wished to be put in the spotlight, right? And to be fair, a lot of them in the spotlight, like a lot of the situation, a lot of people in that situation didn't know what happened, right? There was quite literally a void period in which they were just given the titles of New Avengers, right? And basically told that they had to fill the roles of people that came before them that did it greater. You know, so now they're all kind of like, yeah, we're here now, right? But it still very much fed into the imposter syndrome. What do we have to do? Where do we stand in? A lot of the pull and push that came from them being in the spotlight, even though a lot of the public didn't really believe that they deserved it, and they agreed, was a lot of the media spinning what they were, what they accomplished, what they're like, and what they stand to do. Right, and even at the end of the film, a lot of us still don't know what their role is in the upcoming films, right? So they still very much feel displaced, all right? And we all as an audience probably still feel that because we look at them as not quite the New Avengers, but I guess the darker Avengers, the imposter Avengers.
That's the thing for me. And I promise you, there was an old. I'm going to make the connection. It's kind of weird, but. There was an old movie called Airplane, and one of those movies, if you ever see Airplane, if you keep watching it over and over and over again, you find something new in it. And I suggest to you that Thunderbolts is like that. And in the sense, from a deeper point of view, we do find other things in it. Because I suggest to you, audience, you may be now placed in a position at your job where the person before you was the Avenger, you know, and they're retiring now. And now you have been put into the place where let's call him Bob. So that Bob, that was an Avenger, in the place that now you are in that place because Bob is no longer there. You know, but now you're being called to take that position. Now, some people will look at you as the imposter Bob because you're in Bob's position. And I suggest to you there's an Avenger in you that's new. You don't have to do it like Bob. You don't have to be that person. You be the best that you can be. You're a superhero in yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm tapping the table with passion because I do believe that.
Nice. You're a superhero. Static Shock. Woo woo. It's I know. It's for different preferences.
But what I'm saying is, I
very much understand.
But see, now here's the thing. A young man that I met gave me a wonderful idea. Do you know how they essentially saved timid Bob?
Yes, I do want to talk about that one.
Please, go ahead.
So my time check.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah. We got it. So. Something that I thought was very, very nice, and going back to what Trey referenced earlier, which was the idea that this movie sets itself up to have a really great finale, a big finale in terms of like CGI fights. We're gonna punch everybody, and the best way to win is to punch people in the face and punch them in the face really, really hard. But that is not how the movie decided to conclude itself, or at least definitely didn't decide to save Bob, because something that we wanted to illustrate is that Bob was a danger to himself. The void that he had, his own sense of self-deprivation, his own sense of lack of worth, etc., ended up becoming a danger to himself and others. And there's a point in time, sometimes you may have experienced in your own life with other people, that there's a crossroad to make. Sometimes people around you, if you're a danger to yourself and others, sometimes it's safer for people to maybe exclude themselves and step away sometimes because they don't know. But also another thing is that maybe for yourself, you're trying to bury that part of yourself. You're trying to hide that part of yourself. You're trying to find, I don't like this part of me, I don't like this part of me, I don't like this part of me. And you're burying it deep under. And you're in some versions fighting yourself. And they showed this. They showed Bob try to fight the void, the darker version of himself, and they showed him trying to hit him harder and harder and harder. And as he kept hitting the void got stronger and stronger and more powerful, because the way you fight that version of yourself is not by fighting, but embracing. And we saw each one of the new Avengers. We saw Yelena, the White Widow, come to try to save him instead of trying to stop him from hitting. They're trying to stop him from hitting the void. They started like pulling him back. They're trying to pull him back off of the dark version of himself. Then we had the Red Guardian come and try to help his daughter to try to help him pull back, which became then Bucky Barnes, and then the Ghost, and then U.S. Agent. They all came, but it viewed itself as a scene when they first started to pull people back. He was still stronger, and then they started to embrace him. It became a group hug. And the group hug, or the idea of community, people being there for you, and you being able to maybe not even completely quell, because that void isn't gone now. That's not how you live. But the idea to accept, embrace, and pull yourself out of that situation and say, hey, I'm more than just this. I'm also part of the community. People care about me. Was the way they saved Bob from himself and then saved the city away from that darkness that was tearing everybody away.
Oh my goodness, we got a few more minutes. Let's close it out. Let's get our closing thoughts.
Yeah, so I believe the conclusion of the film kind of just reminded us like the most heroic thing we can do in a situation when we don't feel as super as Spider-Man or the Hulk or whoever might be filmed on the silver screen. Is to just be there for people, right? Sometimes doing a regular check-in for those that you think are doing a lot better. You know, sometimes we have those people in our life who's like, man, they're just so great in whatever they're doing, right? Sometimes just a regular check-in to that individual is the best thing you can ever do for them, because you don't really know what's going on in their situation. They're like, you don't know what they're hiding in the shadows of their apparent greatness, right? There's a lot of things that we don't talk to as individuals that we would very much like to keep to ourselves, but would very much be helped in a community. So just remember, the most heroic thing you can do is be there for each other.
I'd like to say this to all of you. We've been talking about being an imposter and feeling as though that we're lesser than. But I want to suggest to you that we separate that word and say, I'm poster. I'm worthy of being put up to be displayed. I'm the poster child for that which is great. I'm the poster child for that which is good, that which is heroic. So never think of yourself as the imposter. Look inside of yourself and find the greatness within.
Poster, I hardly knew her. I also want to say my takeaway is that if you're trying to take out a whole bunch of tactical, strong people in one building with one thing, don't put a timer on it. Make sure you click a button and we all explode. That would make the movie much shorter.
Wow. Close us out.
That was close.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with Various Fields. We'll be back next week with another movie metaphor magic. We'll see you soon.
Till next time.